And as I always say, and I don't even know why I do this because you guys want me to say this because if I didn't, it would not be the way you kick off Being Brown at Work Live. This is my favorite time of the week. Favorite time of the week. Welcome to Being Brown at Work Live. And if any of you missed the session 2 weeks ago, shame on you. Go catch the replay because you definitely want to hear this young woman's story. I'm so honored to have her as a guest now, part two for the month of April. Let me tell you why. I'm going to read her bio. You'll completely get it. And then you're going to immediately go buy these books because that's what we're going to be talking about. Jacquie Abram is the international best-selling and award-winning author of Hush Money: How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in the Workplace and Kept Her Job, and has been featured in Forbes. Her book is a #1 Amazon bestseller. Hush Money is an international best-selling and award-winning book, as I said, featured in Forbes, #1 Amazon bestseller. It is #1 in best eye-opening African American women's fiction on Goodreads Listopia. It's #1 in books to improve social justice awareness on racism in Goodreads Listopia. And it's been the recipient of the reader's favorite gold medal for social issues novels. Hush Money isn't just another book. Believe me, I've read both of them. They're not just another book about systemic racism. For employees, it's a roadmap for fighting back against racism in the workplace and not walking away empty handed. And for employers, it's the compass for identifying covert racism because you can't fight what you can't see. Now, you had to know I had to have this woman on as a guest. Jacquie, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank
Welcome
you for
back.
having me. I'm excited to be back.
Yes, yes. And those of you catching live, this is what I just read about. This is it, part one and part two. And there's going to be a part three. And I'm
Yes.
so excited. I can't wait for it. Jacquie, for those people who missed our first session, why don't we just kind of recap a little bit of your story that you shared a couple of weeks ago? Because then we're going to go into really talking about how you successfully fought the racism that unfortunately, the horrific treatment that you had to experience. But could you give the audience a little bit of a recap?
Oh, absolutely. So, Hush Money, this book right here, How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in Her Workplace and Kept Her Job. It follows the 5-year journey of a Black woman by the name of Ebony. And Ebony has already gone through so much even before the story really gets started. She's living in poverty with her sick mother. She's going through a bitter divorce and trying to get her son back from her ex-husband who has tricked her into sending him to him for what was supposed to be the
Mm,
summer. She's struggling financially, and she's had a series of dead-end jobs, and really all that Ebony ever wanted was a chance to live the American dream,
yeah.
you know, which for her was really more of a fantasy, with no possibility of becoming a reality. But then she gets a job through a temp assignment and ends up working at a for-profit college, where this person that she's reporting to actually values her skills, sees the potential in her. And so
Yes.
he buys out her contract with the temp agency, hires her full time, and she is just ecstatic. She's now got this full time job that's paying her the most money that she's ever made. And she really believes that this is the job she's going to have and grow in, and that she's going to be able to retire in. But what Ebony didn't expect and what she didn't really know anything about was that there were racists in this organization.
Yes.
And a funny thing about racists, okay,
Yeah.
they don't typically bother you as much as long as they think you are where you belong career wise. Okay.
Yes.
But when you start climbing that corporate ladder and you start reaching for more than they think you deserve, well, that's when they start targeting you. And so in Ebony's case, they began targeting her.
Yeah.
And they were not doing it with a lot of overt racism. They were
Right.
doing it with covert racism, which is a career killer
Absolutely.
because it's hidden below the surface. You can't see it. You can't tell if what you're experiencing is actually racism. And because you can't tell, the people around you who are
Exactly.
seeing these things happen to you can't tell either. And so you are now fighting for your career life as you are being targeted by racists. And they
Yes.
are all working together with this racist leader and with other people that this racist leader has to conspire with him or her.
Yeah.
And before you know it, your career is derailed, and you and
Totally.
that ladder that you were climbing up on, you come crashing down. So in
Absolutely.
Ebony,
And you know, I want to share a little bit right there, if you don't mind,
mhm,
Jackie, because I know a
absolutely,
lot of our viewers, whether you're catching this live or on a replay, you probably have experienced or are experiencing exactly what Jackie's talking about. And you may be thinking that you're not sure what's going on, right? You're like, okay, wait a minute. I was doing very well and I was, things were working out well, getting good performance reviews. And all of a sudden, it starts to shift. And the littlest things become the biggest things, or certain people then all of a sudden have a problem with me, and you're not connecting that it
right,
has anything to do with the fact that you are a black or brown woman, or a black or brown man, for that matter, someone
right,
of color. You probably aren't connecting it, but this is what Jackie's sharing with you. It is racist. You are being targeted, uh,
yes.
by no fault of your own, but just being who you are and walking in your excellence.
And
That's it.
in Ebony's case, in most of the positions that she had, throughout her career, quite frankly, I'll use me as an example. In my entire career, so you're talking a career that spanned nearly 20 years, I was always the only Black person
Yes.
on the leadership
Me
team.
too. Yep.
Now,
Yep.
you may think that's coincidence, but that is by default. Okay. That is intentional
Mm,
because they don't want you coming together and finding support with
mm,
anyone. They
wow.
don't want you to feel that camaraderie that people have when they're in the workplace.
Mm,
They don't want to see you and other Black people congregating at the water fountain, okay, together,
mhm.
because even though they do it all the time, it is intimidating to see a bunch of Black people in the workplace together. So
Yes.
they have you isolated. And like I said, that is intentional.
Yeah.
So when you start going through racism and having problems, you are really alone. There's no one on that leadership team who can or will identify with what you are experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is by design.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, that is just, I mean, when you hear that, that can be extremely deflating, right? I mean, it
Mhm,
can
mhm.
it can make some of us, if not all of us, think twice about, why do this? I've
Right.
been always the only one, even in college, frankly. I mean, just the college I chose to go to, what I did chose to major in, but I've
Mhm.
always been the only one. So I completely get what you're saying, Jackie. And although what I've experienced clearly is systemic racism. It wasn't to the degree of Ebony though. And so
Yes.
I'm thankful for that at least. But the reason why I wanted to bring this forward is because I do know people who have had Ebony's experience, right? I know
Yes.
people who have moved from one corporation to another, one workplace environment to another, and unfortunately have experienced it more than once, more than
Yes.
twice, right?
Yes.
And then have no idea what to do, which is why this part two is so important, right? Is to
Mhm.
make sure we leave the audience with things that they can do if they're experiencing this. But before we get there, Jackie, so you gave kind of in our last session a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for the recap on Ebony's situation and what she was dealing with. So now as we bring Ebony forward, right, and she
Yes.
has experienced this racism on more than one occasion. Where is she now in her life, and how does she get to the point where she figures out how to fight back?
Okay, so we're talking Hush Money, or we're talking the real woman behind Ebony.
Well,
Which one
I
are you
would
talking about?
love to talk about the real woman, but I will leave it up to you. I would love
um,
to talk about the real woman. Yes.
okay, so there is a very real woman behind the character Ebony. But a lot of times, and I'll tell you, when I first wrote Hush Money, I used to get this question a lot. People would say, you know, why was the book fictionalized, inspired by true events? Why not just write it as a nonfiction memoir, for example?
Hmm.
And so let me just shed a little bit of light on that. The title of the book tells you what the book is about. It tells you that there was some hush money exchanged. And companies don't pay hush money unless they have something to hide.
Hmm.
So if a company pays an employee hush money, it's because they want to buy their silence, but they're not going to give you that big hush money payment until they have gotten a way to guarantee your silence.
Yes.
Okay. And with that, they're going to have you sign a confidentiality or
Hmm.
a non disclosure agreement.
Right. Right.
So if Ebony were to write this as a nonfiction book and as a memoir, she would put herself in legal
Yeah.
harm's way. Okay.
Exactly.
But here's the thing though, the real Ebony, she was very smart.
Mm.
And after everything they put her through, she took their huge hush money payment. Okay.
Hmm.
And she signed that agreement. Okay. But then she still found a way to tell
Mm.
the world what happened to her.
Hmm.
And that
Yes.
was why the book had to be written the way that it
It
was.
was written.
But
Yeah.
anybody who picks up Hush Money can tell this is a real woman's story. There is
Yeah.
a real woman behind what happened to this woman in this book.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, I read it. I knew that it was someone.
Yes.
I didn't feel. I mean, it was too much that one resonated.
Yes.
Two, that I felt every time I turned the page. So I knew it was a real encounter. I knew it was someone's true life lived experience.
Yes.
And we know that we have it in various degrees today. What
Mhm.
Ebony experienced in that nonprofit environment is
Right.
what we experience, as I shared, in various degrees today. And for
Mhm.
me, for me, this Being Brown at Work Live has always been built around, you know, forward thinking, positive thinking, not really allowing ourselves to just to say, okay, I give up. There's woe is me, and I can't do this anymore. I come to this Being Brown at Work Live focused intentionally around uh, instrumenting women, Black and Brown women, giving them the tools and the methodology so they can be successful, so they could be, the Ebony eventually, right, that overcomes, figures out a way to overcome, fight back, right?
Yes.
Or if it's to that extreme, or if it's similar to my experience, how to still achieve the career goals that I set out to achieve in spite of that and still be me,
Mhm.
natural hair, dark, all of that, right? And still be
Right.
totally, fully authentic me. Which is
Mhm.
why, Jackie, when I read your book, when I met you online on LinkedIn and did some other research, it was just so important for me to have you on because I don't shy away from what I know exists systemically. We can't, right?
Yes.
As you said in your bio, that's why these books are so important for employers because you can't fight something that you can't see.
That's
right?
right.
And so I
That's
want to bring it to the light, in
mhm.
order to make sure that we do eradicate this someday, right? And we can't do
Absolutely.
that unless we bring it to the light.
Now, you know what's interesting, if I might just digress for just a minute. There's a different dynamic going on in the workplace, versus the community. So,
Mm,
in the community, for example, um, back in the day, let's go back, many, many decades. Back in the day when, racists would target our people in the community, whether they were jogging, shopping, whatever, ringing doorbells, whatever,
yeah,
okay? At least decades ago, they would hide their shame with those
yeah,
doggone, hoods and
yeah, yeah.
covers,
Right,
okay?
right.
At least they were trying to show that there was some part of them that didn't want to be noticed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But now in modern day, that is not the case in the
Not the
community.
case.
They are
Yeah.
doing it right, I mean, in the open. They
Yes.
want to garner success and fame and fortune from going out and shooting Black people, okay?
Yeah.
Harming Black people, and they're not even trying to cover up their identity. They want
Sure.
it known, okay?
Right.
So that dynamic to me is very interesting in the community
Community.
where
Yeah.
they want to be seen. They want you to
Sure.
know what they're doing. They want that news coverage, okay? But in
But
the workplace,
workplace.
yeah, not the
Yeah.
case.
Not the
The
case.
workplace, it's the
Yeah.
exact opposite.
Right.
They are working on a very covert level.
Right.
It's hidden, it's harder to prove, and they're working together.
Yeah.
So you've got everybody working together quietly under the surface where
Right.
you can't see it, and those that see it going on around you can't tell
They can't
that it's
identify it.
racism.
Right.
So
Exactly.
the reason hush money has become the success that it has is because it's really a roadmap, a survival guide that teaches our people how to fight back on that same covert, hidden level. Okay. So that
Yes.
as you're fighting back, it's very hard for your bosses and your leaders around you
Hmm.
to understand what you're doing. They can't see what you're doing until it's too late.
Yeah.
By the
So
time they
Jackie,
realize it, it's too late.
yeah. So if we could, I'd
Mhm.
like to kind of move into exactly that, right? And if you don't mind, I'd like to look at it in two ways because what I also love that what Hush Money has done and what you do is not only are you out here gracing people like myself with podcasts, so we're speaking to individuals, but you also are highly sought after to walk into corporations, companies, and speak to their employee resource groups or various things, right? And provide
Yes.
enlightenment there. So if you would, Jackie, if we could take a look at two approaches. One, if it's an individual like Ebony and
Yes.
they're experiencing this extreme just horrific treatment, being targeted. If you had to give that person that's listening in right now, I don't know, 3 to 5 things to make sure they do so
Okay.
that they can either keep their job as Ebony did or successfully, walk away.
Okay.
If you could give those, and then I would love for you to flip the script and then
Okay.
talk to those people who are in leadership positions,
Yes.
who drive this, what they should do as well. So go right
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at this from an employee lens, okay?
Yes.
So the very, very first thing, and I say this every time someone asks me, is you really need to get hush money, okay?
Mm,
How one woman proved systemic racism in her workplace and kept her job, and the sequel. Because inside of those books, it's going to lay out a strategy.
yes.
And I call it creating weapons of war. Okay.
Mhm.
So you're going to be building an arsenal of weapons that you can use to start fighting back.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't matter where you are in your career. You could be a new employee or you could be an employee that's seasoned and has been there for years. But as of right now, there are certain things that you should be doing. Okay. You always want to hope for the best,
Oh,
but you
sure.
want to plan and prepare for the
Hmm.
worst, okay?
Right.
And so the way that you do that is by number one, you go into the station, collect immediately right off the top the documents that you know you're going to need if things should go bad. Okay, you're going
Hmm.
to need their anti discrimination policy because it is very interesting to me how many organizations create these cookie cutter anti discrimination policies that they really have no intention of following.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
it's always nice. It's a very good piece of evidence to have that so that when they start targeting you, you can tell them, well, not only are you not following federal and state regulations that say you cannot discriminate against me because I'm Black, but you're not even following your own policy.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to collect that. You want to collect that job description. Most people, when they come to me asking for help, I'll say, let me see your job description. Oh, I can't find it. I don't have it. And now they won't give it to me. So you want to collect that job description immediately. You don't want to leave this evidence that you're now creating stored on the company computer, okay? You want to use an offsite storage facility. So, an online storage facility like Dropbox is a great one. It's free. You can
Hmm.
organize your documents, Google Drives, OneDrive, but you want to collect your evidence and get it off of your company computer. You want to put it someplace safe. And
Yeah.
these online storage facilities online are great for that.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add to what you're just saying, Jackie, just so the
Mhm.
audience understands, because your job description, there's nothing private about that. I mean, you were given that, in the beginning when accepted your job. So don't think it's a document that you shouldn't have, right?
Mhm.
The discrimination policy, not something that you shouldn't have, right? So these are, things things that Jackie's mentioning. I want everybody to understand they're not, confidential documents that you as an employee shouldn't have. So don't feel that way. We have
Right.
somebody right here. Class warfare is real. Racism is one of the weapons that is used, and we need defenses against covert racism. So we have Veronica who's
Absolutely.
joining us. Yes, she's joining us on YouTube, and she just put that comment. Thank you, Veronica. Go ahead, Jackie.
Absolutely. So these are things that you're going to be putting in your arsenal. The next thing that you want to do is you want to weaponize email. Email is one of the most powerful weapons that you're going to have in your arsenal. So many times when we start these jobs or we get promoted, things are going great in the beginning and we're getting a
Mhm.
lot of verbal compliments. People are telling us verbally that we're doing a great job. But when a racist targets you, and then they partner with HR and they're partnering with other people and they're promising somebody on your team, one of your employees, your job, okay? The first thing that they do is they paint you out as an incompetent
Mhm.
employee. Now, you want to have email weaponized so that as you're getting all of those verbal compliments,
Yeah.
it's not just their word against yours because all you have is a bunch of verbal compliments.
Yeah.
You want to take that verbal compliment as soon as it's given to you, run back to your desk, open up an email, and say, thank you in the subject line, and then say, Linda, thank you for the compliment you gave me a few minutes ago when we were walking in the hall about the presentation I did on whatever it was. I appreciate you. Why is that important? Because now you've got a piece of tangible evidence that says on
Yes.
this date, at
Yes.
this time, I was doing a good job. And if you keep this kind of tangible evidence, turning those verbal kudos into something tangible over an extended period of time, it is a powerful
Yes.
picture that is painted to
Love that.
show
Yeah.
you were doing a great job, okay?
Yeah.
You want to also keep a daily log, okay? So a daily log is something simple. Now my girls are what, 30 something, 32 and 35 now, somewhere around those ages. And And they said, Mom, we don't have time to do a
I
daily log.
mhm.
So I said, okay, whenever something happens, okay, so your boss comes into your office and catches you off guard and now is getting into this intense conversation where this
Yeah.
is evidence that you need. As soon as they leave, you open up your little smartphone, use the little microphone, and type yourself a personal email to your
Mhm.
Gmail
Sure.
that says what happened, who was there, said, all of the details, email that to your personal Gmail.
Sure.
And if
Yeah.
you do that consistently, everything is date and time
Date and
stamped. So when
time.
it's
Yep.
ready for us to fight, okay, all we have to do is go to your Gmail and everything's already laid out in chronological order. So that
Wonderful.
is
Good
powerful.
advice. Yeah, good,
The,
good, good advice.
the next thing you want to do is you want to research whether or not you are in what's called a one party consent state, okay?
Mm.
One party consent states are a powerful weapon because in those kind of states, federal law actually allows you to secretly record conversations with your boss
Yep.
as long as you are a party to them without them knowing.
Mhm.
And that recorded conversation is a powerful piece of evidence. Now, you can do this if you know ahead of time that you're going to have a meeting.
Sure.
But like I said, you're not always going to know because in
Right.
my case, my boss would catch me in the hallway. They would walk into my office and just close the door, and then we get into this heated conversation.
Right.
So that's where these two things work together. You've got your daily log or the emails you're
Mhm.
sending yourself as things are happening, and you've got the recordings that are date and time stamped. Okay.
Right.
And it looks like we have a question.
Oh, is there a question here? Let's
Oh,
see.
yes, absolutely. You want to save text messages. Let me just tell you, I just helped an employee get a $150,000 settlement with no attorney, okay? No
Mhm.
attorney at all in less than 5 months, okay? And the reason we were able to do that is because she had a combination of emails, she
Mhm.
had text messages, and the things that this boss was putting in messages, I was like, what
Yeah.
is really
Right.
dumb, okay? Because it was
Yeah.
gold. It was gold. And on top of that, Skype messages,
Yes.
DMs, anything in writing between you and that boss is gold. It is
And
powerful,
Veronica,
powerful
I would
evidence.
say anything in writing, period. It doesn't necessarily
Yes.
have to be from your boss. So keep in mind, as
Mhm.
Jackie said, there's other people that play into this. So that's an excellent question, Veronica. Yes,
Mhm.
MS Teams, screen shoot it, download it,
Yes.
print it. You can copy and print. You know how you can do anything in MS Teams,
Mhm.
DMs, anything in writing from anyone that's feeding into the
Yes.
targeting activity that you're experiencing.
That's
Absolutely,
right, and you
please.
wanna make sure absolutely every source, okay? So don't
Every
just have
source.
tunnel vision. Everyone
Exactly.
that's around you,
Everyone. Yes.
kudos, and when the negative stuff starts,
Yes.
this is the other piece of weaponizing email, and this is where people struggle. They're afraid to send those tough emails,
Mhm.
having those uncomfortable conversations,
Yes.
and this is what I tell them, okay? Obviously, this is not as important to you as you're saying it is because these people are setting you up. This person has made this comment to you that's saying, I'll just use the example I gave last time, that
Yes.
nobody wants to work with you because you're too emotional or you're too loud, which are all Black women stereotypes, okay?
Mhm.
So you are afraid to send them an email confirming what they said. Okay. So you have to ask yourself, do I want to fight or do I not want to fight? But if I want to get out of this with either my job or a settlement, then I've got to attack the comfortable piece. So what you
Yes.
do is you open up an email to your boss, you put in the subject, recap of our meeting, and you say, Dear Joan,
Yeah.
during our meeting in your office a few minutes ago, you said, no one wants to work with me because I'm an emotional Black woman who's too loud. Can you shed some light on that? Well, when
Mhm.
your boss Joan gets that email, she's going to call you and say, come on into my office, because she don't want to
Yeah,
put nothing in
right,
writing, okay?
right.
But now you've got this tangible piece of evidence that shows on this date, at this time, this is what she said to you. And so
Right.
she'll call you in her office and she'll say whatever she wants to. And then you go back to your office and you say, "Thank you for meeting with me per
Yep.
the conversation we just had in your office." And then you keep that trail,
Yes, for
because
sure.
that type of evidence is golden.
Yes, it is. So
Voicemails.
yeah, oh, I'm
Voicemails
sorry.
are golden,
Yes, yes,
okay? So,
absolutely.
as your
But I
boss
want
is giving you all these duties that are outside of your job description because they're
yeah,
piling the work on your back so high so that you break down, all of that is golden. So, voicemails telling you to do extra things that are way outside of your job description, and they're putting it in a voicemail, you save those and you
absolutely.
start putting all of these things in this offsite storage. That's what my book shows you how to do. It
It does.
really breaks down the strategy, but it goes so much further,
It
so
does. It
much
does.
further.
And I want to, if I could, Jackie, I want to make this statement because, we don't want to dismiss the fact that what Jackie's sharing with you, these are not easy things to do. And not everyone has the level of fortitude, confidence to write that recapping email after having a courageous conversation or a difficult or a challenging conversation. And Jackie and I both recognize that. But I
Mm.
think what Jackie, the point she made is so critical. And I don't want to just she said it, and I don't want to just gloss over it. You're going to have to decide how much of this you want to deal with or handle. You have to decide. And I think that is the issue, right? When you get back and you're sitting in your office and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't type this email. Think about that decision not
Yes.
to do that, right? Because you want to make sure that you don't give your power away. You don't,
Hmm.
yes, they
Yes.
count on you getting disoriented. And absolutely, Veronica, you don't want to
Yes.
give your power away. And so, although these things are not easy to do, I implore you, maybe if you have someone you can trust in your village outside of your workplace, take a walk, call them on the phone, get that lift you
Hmm.
need or something to go type that email. But you
Well, and
don't want to totally give your power away. And Jackie, before we run out of time here, because we've gotten a
yeah.
little bit over, I
Hmm.
want to make sure we flip the script and talk about what these leaders can do. If
Okay.
they have the power in the organization to shift things. But see, this is so good. And I know, Veronica, I know you're loving it. And I really appreciate your comments in the section. And some of you that are listening, they're not so brave to write your comments. Understand, you
Hmm.
can reach out to Jackie one on one, just and connect with her and get the support you need. So, Jackie, let's talk to some leaders now, or some companies out here on how they can turn this situation around, eradicate this racism in the workplace. Now that they can see it, we're putting it in the light, right? So,
Okay.
yes.
And so, just real quick on the other topic, hush money goes into so many other strategies that all work together to help you fight back, and they are powerful. Now, on the employer side, what you need to do also is get hush money. How one woman proved systemic racism in her workplace and kept her job, because that's going to open your eyes to how the racists in your organization that you don't know are racist are operating on a
Mm,
hidden level. So, some of the things that you can do is at the end of your quarterly periods, okay, when your employees are getting their, quarterly or 6 month performance evaluations, have your employees evaluate their bosses. So, that is the number one thing that you want to do. Give employees an opportunity to do a
yes.
performance review on their bosses. And you are going to find out so many things that you didn't know. Like, for example, How come me and Susie have the same job descriptions, but all of this extra work is put on my back? Well,
Mm,
this is what my job description says I'm supposed to be doing, but these are all of the extra things that are on top of that that she's not having to do.
mhm,
She's leaving every day on time. I'm staying, working through my lunches, working after work, working on the weekends, working on holidays
mhm.
because I've got a heavier workload. So that's what employers need to do. They need to allow their employees to do performance reviews
I
at
like
the
that.
same time that their bosses are doing performance reviews on them.
I like that.
Okay, so then they're going to see, okay, this is going to help you identify what I call the black workhorse, okay? Because
Yes.
you're going to see a very clear picture of this is what this person's supposed to be doing, but these are all of the extra duties that the boss is supposed to be
Sure.
doing. Okay, but the boss wants to leave early, so she's piling it on this
Yeah.
black employee's back. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's going to help them identify that. There's another type of covert racism, which is called being set up to fail. Okay. So you need, as an employer, to have some sense of what these people are supposed to be training their employees on and what their employees are actually getting trained on. Okay.
Mm, mhm.
So at the end of their onboarding period or their training period in this new promotion, there should be a checklist that says, I was trained on this and this and this. Because then, if the boss, now you're in your job and they start trying to say you're making all these errors,
Yeah.
well, the ownership then shifts to, but you trained them and this is what you said and you marked it off. So did you give me the wrong information? Because we both signed off on this. Okay. So it's going to give the
Yeah.
employer a sense of, okay, is everybody being trained the same
Equal.
way?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
If an employee is having an issue with their equipment, because that's another way that covert racism works, you've got two people in the same position, okay? But this person has equipment that is state of the art, and this black person has equipment that is older than dirt, okay? So found in an archaeological dig somewhere, and they're both trying to do the
Wow.
same amount of work, but
Yeah.
this person can't keep up because
Right.
their equipment is subpar. This is where these performance reviews on their bosses will really identify what's going on.
Yes.
So
Yes.
those are just a few
I love
examples.
it. I
Mhm,
absolutely love it, Jackie. That's
mhm.
why for me it's so important. And as we close this session, and I know what's going to happen. I'm going to
They
get a
go so
lot of
fast.
they go fast. I'm going to get a lot of comments, a lot of feedback. I'm going to have you back again, I'm sure, later in the year, or when part 3 comes out. But I just really want to highlight these two books. This is the first one, How Hush Money, How One Woman
Proved.
proved
Mhm.
systemic racism in a workplace and kept her job. I mean, you have to get these. As Jackie said, they are roadmaps. They're page turners. You won't be able to put them down. I couldn't put them down. I went right from one to the other, and I'm traveling. I'm not. Those of you that follow me don't recognize the background, right? Because I'm not at home. But you see, the books are with me because I had some things I wanted to make sure that I noted and put my little tabs in. They're
Yes.
roadmaps. They're excellent tools for you if you're dealing with some of these challenges, similar to Ebony in the story,
Mhm.
or not so much, but at various degrees and levels, because we know racism shows up in various degrees. Or if
Yes.
you're an employer and you have a hunch, or you want to do the right thing, up front and be
Mhm.
intentional about it, that book will give you the roadmap for sure.
Yes.
For those of you that are listening live, please go back to the April 1st and catch that section, part 1 with Jackie. So many nuggets in part 1, definite valuable nuggets here in part 2. But I know Jackie, as you say, as you heard her say, she's already helped several other people who were
Yeah.
struggling, who were experiencing what the character in this book experienced. That's based on a real story, a real life
Mhm.
event. So reach out to Jackie.
Oh,
Please do.
please. I'm on
Yes.
LinkedIn. I practically live there. So if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, you're
Yeah.
guaranteed to get a response. And so many employees reach out to me and get my help. Hush Money will teach you how to write an ironclad discrimination complaint because there are certain key words that you
Right.
have to build into that complaint. Hush Money will show you how to do that. Hush Money will show you how to weaponize medical leave. So many people make the mistake of not creating a wall of protection when
Yeah.
they go on medical leave. Hush Money will teach you who to send that ironclad discrimination complaint to. And
Yeah.
it's not the HR person who's in cahoots with the racist
Yeah.
down here. You're going to jump all the way over their head to the CEO, the board of directors, the parent company, and everybody's going to know what's going
Yeah.
on. And
Exactly.
Hush Money tells you go with the state route.
Yeah.
Most people go the EEOC route, but go the state route. It is a great option. They have a civil rights division office
Yep.
at the state level. So these are all things that you're going to learn in Hush Money. It really goes into a lot of detail, really helps you put together this arsenal that you can
Absolutely.
use to protect your job and not walk away empty handed.
Absolutely. And
Deal with
that's
the
the
devil
key.
you know. Deal with the
That's
devil you know.
and that's the key because you are worth it. You
Yes.
deserve your career that you've did all the hard work to
Yeah.
acquire. So reach out to Jackie on LinkedIn. She'd be more than
Yes.
happy to help you. And definitely go on to Amazon, purchase those books. When you're done reading them, put your comments out there of how much it made a difference for you, was positively impactful for you, because we want to keep this type of information in the forefront. So
Yes.
that's why, Jackie, I'm so honored that you were a guest of mine.
Thank
As I said, I wanted to bring this to the light, and I definitely wanted to be one of the vehicles that make sure everyone knew about Hush Money. Jackie, I can't express enough how much I appreciate you and your time. And
thank you.
and again, if you need her assistance, LinkedIn is the best platform to connect with her.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
thanks, Veronica, for being one of the brave ones that commented live. I know there's several other people watching, but
Mhm.
Veronica can't express how much I appreciate your feedback, your comments in this section. And I'm hoping for you that if you're dealing with anything, Veronica, that you're able to positively get on the other side of it. If I can be of assistance, but most importantly, if Jackie can, please feel free to reach out to her. All
Yes.
right, everyone. Until next time, take care.
Bye.